It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-5222, your emails at randywangradio@gmail.com. Search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts and get my daily curated list of all of the local stories in California that matter by going to randywangradio.substack.com and subscribe for free to the California Report. And with that, let's get to today's California Report. We found out late on Friday that the LAUSD Board, after 2 days of deliberating, has decided to put Alberto Carvalho on paid leave indefinitely. And considering how long these investigations take for whatever the FBI is looking into, he could be on paid leave for a very long time. And if you were wondering how much he makes while on paid leave, well, about $430,000 a year. I got to imagine the person that they're appointing as the interim and the appointed guy that's taking over, he's probably going to get more money too. And this is all, of course, happening while LAUSD is facing a big budget deficit and they're getting real close to an all-out teacher strike because Cecily Myart Cruz smells blood in the water.
That is fantastic.
Now, I have been following every aspect of our next story because ABC7 has been doing some really great pieces covering the crazy woman behind the multi-million-dollar liens. So we've been telling you about this woman, Rita Ortiz, who claims that she's some kind of real estate consultant. Well, apparently it's very easy to file a mechanics lien, like a lien for unpaid work for a contractor or a cleaning service, what have you, to a home. And those liens can be as much as you say they are. So she has filed millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of liens. One of them was $25 million. One of them was $50 million. And while we were all perplexed as to that you can just do this and screw up somebody's title if they're trying to sell a property, what do you know? The felony charges are here. Rita Ortiz was arrested. And now she's going to have to answer to why she's been doing this. Her interview on ABC7 did not help her one bit. But all of her claims are how, these people stole my house from me, and I'm just trying to get paid for my work. Apparently, she's not even licensed to be any kind of a real estate. So I don't know what's going on here. But I'm glad to see that she will, at least for the time being, not be able to harass people with this nonsense that's been going on. But, you know, there's just a lot of insanity in the news these days. Now, in the Bay Area, Oakland, at the last second, Oakland Unified averted a teacher strike. They made a deal with the teachers union to make sure that the schools will not close. And that is very, very, very good news. The problem is that Oakland Unified immediately has to make layoffs because you're talking about a school district, and this is one of the more emblematic ones of population decline, enrollment decline. You don't have the money to spend, but the teachers need a raise, and I understand everybody needs a raise. Things are expensive, but if you don't have any more money coming in and you can't have a budget deficit. You have to have a balanced budget or you get taken over by the state. And Oakland Unified just got out of a huge receivership that they were under from the state of California, and they're almost immediately ready to go back in. But at the time being, it looks like even teachers are going to be laid off. So while some teachers might be getting a raise, a lot of teachers are going to be getting a pink slip. And just, I don't know what the answer is here, because ultimately this is a bigger issue having to do with the fact that people are not wanting to put their kids in California public schools the way they used to. If you can afford to raise a family in the Bay Area, you could probably also afford to put them into private school. And that's unfortunate, but that's also what is happening right now. How many people move out of the state to raise a family? And if you have enrollment decline and you have declining revenues and you don't want to take the actions of closing or merging schools, which Oakland Unified was told to do by their fiduciaries many, many times, this is what's going to happen. But at least they didn't go through the motions of a strike, because the teachers' unions are going to get whatever they want. San Francisco Unified, the teachers' union got everything they want, and they shut down the schools for a week. And that district also couldn't afford the checks that they wrote, so they're issuing layoffs as well. Now, here's an interesting story coming out of the South Bay. VTA, the Valley Transit Authority, they're building some extensions to their lines. And VTA has made some promises to small businesses that might be impacted by the never-ending construction, and that will help you. And we have loans and grants if we are, interrupting your business. Well, what do you know? VTA's construction at this one site has been so bad, the nearby strip mall has lost about 50% of its customers. There are restaurants that are about to go out of business. There's a pizza place that can't hire a delivery guy because you can't even get in there. The trucks are blocking the entrance. And has VTA done anything to make these businesses whole? No, they have not. Now, I always like to highlight some of my favorite reporters, and one of my favorite reporters in the Bay Area is Leanne Melendez of ABC7, because she does these pieces that are just how to build a better Bay Area. And sometimes it's the simplest things, but if you've ever walked around a city like San Francisco, there are parts of it, like around Golden Gate Park, that are a lush forest. But there are also parts of it, like downtown, that are as concrete of a jungle as you can imagine, and I remember this, when I went up to San Francisco 2 summers ago to do a week of shows with John, I brought my wife and our dogs with us. We stayed at Portsmouth Square. I couldn't figure out, anywhere to go take the dogs out to go use the bathroom. I found these tiny little patches of grasses here or there. And one of the times we ended up using an empty tree well, because there are a lot of these around San Francisco where a tree died or a tree fell over, but the missing patch of concrete is still there. And sometimes this is like a 9-10 inch drop, and these are a huge tripping hazard. So Leanne tried to investigate how hard is it to fix one of these things, these empty tree wells that are all over San Francisco. And speaking of reporters that I love in the Bay Area, Dan Noyes of ABC7 has been covering, you want to talk about crazy people, LA and the Bay Area are having a crazy off right now, because LA has Rita Ortiz, the nutso woman who's filing all of the liens, but the Bay Area has the crazy guy and his nutso girlfriend who somehow swindled their way to a tiny piece of a property at Thornton State Beach in Daly City and decided to fence it off, even though you can't do that because it's access to a public beach, and they don't own the property, and then started waving a gun around and threatening anybody that was going on there. This guy has a long, felonious past. The story of this piece of land, how he came into ownership of 1/24 of it, it is wild. It is worth your time. It is an 8-minute piece, and it is deliciously crazy. So give that one a listen. It's just, you wonder, how did this guy even amount the money that he had to buy this land to begin with, even though it was shady how he did it? Well, he's also currently on trial for taking out a bunch of pandemic loans that he didn't really need. So there are so many swindlers and so many nuts in this state. Now, a story that we covered quite a bit last week is still getting national attention, and that happens to be the early parole, the senior parole for 64-year-old David Allen Funston, the horrific, monstrous serial child rapist who was put away in the 90s to 3 life sentences and 20 years on top of that. We had an early release for seniors law where you serve 25 years and you're over 65, you get out. In 2021, Gavin Newsom changed that to you serve 20 years and you're over 50, because of course over 50 is senior. Well, you have a chance to get out. And what came out over the weekend was the transcript of the parole hearing, which is incredibly horrific and graphic. And This guy sure says, oh, yes, I've been working on myself, but also I have this disease called pedophilia and I'm going to live with this forever. And I can't guarantee that something I won't do won't ever happen again. And they said, parole granted. So if you want to know the details of what was said in that hearing and what the parole board still decided to rubber stamp, it's definitely worth your time. But Ashley Zavala, another wonderful, incredible reporter, she just happened to start looking into other cases where this is being applied. And it's being applied to a whole lot of people, and the victims don't seem to have any say, nor does the parole board care about anything that happens to them. These early releases can count towards murderers, they can count towards rapists, they can count towards pretty much anything. Now, if it's a murder case, then the governor does have an opportunity to veto that. But some of these other ones that are not getting the notoriety of De Leon Funston, this is the kind of going too far on criminal justice reform that had 70% of the electorate vote yes on Prop 36. But most of these decisions aren't up to the voter. They're up to who's in Sacramento. And for a very long time, who's in Sacramento has been all in on criminal justice reform at any cost. And the results have been a disaster. So if you don't like what you're seeing here, if you don't like what's going on with this, it's on you to do what you can to look down ballot who is running for assembly, who is running for state senate. Turnout is not very high in a lot of these elections. And if this is an issue that is important to you, as I'm sure it is, you find out what their stance is on this stuff, and you find out if they're willing to fix this law or they think everything is working as intended. Very important. And I had to put this story in, although it's already been outdated and updated, but Kevin Kiley used to be in the assembly, then he ran for Congress, and he was one of the main targets of the Prop 50 redistricting, which has been held up by the Supreme Court. And to his credit, Kevin Kiley said, I don't like what's happening here, but I also don't like what's going on in Texas. I don't like this idea of mid-decade redistricting. And he wrote a bill that would have banned the practice in all 50 states. Of course, Congress never put it on the floor. So I feel for Kevin Kiley. They split his district into 6 different pieces. And he had to decide which district he's going to try to run in, because most of them are now put forth in a way where there are a lot more Democrats than there used to be. So which district is he going to run in? And he was really teasing everyone. I'm not sure. I'm going to figure it out over the weekend. He's like, it's between District 5 and District 6. And this was the matchups. He was either going to be running against longtime incumbent Tom McClintock in District 5, putting a Republican on Republican bloodbath like we're going to see in Orange County between Ken Calvert and Young Kim, or he has to take his chances, which he's a pretty moderate guy. I think he did get a lot of props from a lot of people on his stance on Prop 50 and redistricting. He's going to be running in District 6, which his current 2 opponents are the DA of Sacramento County, Tin Ho, and Dr. Richard Pan, who was in the state Senate, who was a big guy on vaccines. And you remember someone like protester went into the state Senate when he was having a hearing on vaccines and spit some blood in his face. That's his claim to fame. So we'll see how that election goes. The odds are stacked against him just based on voter registration, but voter registration doesn't necessarily equal turnout. And maybe there's enough independent-minded voters who are we kidding? It's California. Prop 50 passed overwhelmingly. I don't know if Kevin Kiley has a future in Congress. Maybe he'll go back to the Assembly. Maybe he'll go back to the state Senate. But I really liked the bill that he wrote in Congress. And I think it's an embarrassment that the Speaker of the House never put it on the floor, because I bet you it would have passed with bipartisan support, because sometimes we need more adults in the room to say, hey, enough of the tit for tat. We got lots more to go here. It is the California Report. You can read this, and by read this, I mean you can see my list of all the videos, and you can watch these on your own free time. You can share them with your friends, family, and your social circle. This is my show prep that I do every single day, and I decided to publish it and make it a list that you can all have. So subscribe today at randywangradio.substack.com. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's get back to today's California Report at randywangradio.substack.com. So let's continue in Sacramento, where Citrus Heights in Sacramento County is doing something that I really wish a lot more cities would do. Call for stricter regulations. I know California is an overregulated state. That's true. There are certain industries that I would argue are underregulated, like, I don't know, scrap metal and the people that are buying stolen copper wire. They're licensed businesses. How can we not crack down on them? And here's another one. You know how in every single dinky strip mall, there's an even dinkier looking massage parlor with metal bars on the windows and a flashing open sign, and they're open till 10 o'clock at night? I know what's going on there. You know what's going on there. But cities and counties like to pretend that these are legitimate businesses when they are obviously not. There are plenty of legitimate spas to get a massage. Of course there are. And I fully believe in the therapeutic healing of massage. But we really could go for some stricter regulations in making sure that these are not fronts for human trafficking, which so many are. Like, we know what's going on there. I have pointed out many times, there is a strip mall near my house. One of the units is vacant. The other one is a bakery that's been out of business for months. The only two that are in business are an illicit massage parlor and a smoke shop. And I believe illegal activity is happening at both. And I believe the city looks the other way because they are licensed businesses and they are paying taxes. This is why the city of LA, speaking of smoke shops, wants to put a measure on the ballot that would allow them to tax illegally operating pot stores. That's just nonsense right there. I'm sure you're aware that gas prices are starting to go up, and that's because of the war that is going on in Iran, especially in California, where we import 40% of our gasoline, thanks to policies from Gavin Newsom. California Energy Commission had a hearing showing that with more refinery closures on the horizon, prices could get even worse, especially if we're dependent on foreign investments, because we can't get any oil. It's so weird. We have to get our oil imported from Venezuela or the Middle East or the Asian countries. We can't import it from the other states like Texas because we don't have a pipe that'll do it. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. But there are some members of the legislature that are starting to realize this energy transition is not going nearly as fast as everyone said it would. And while we have gas, we're going to have to figure that out because it is not feasible for everyone to own an electric car right now. And I say that as a proud owner of an electric car. I love my electric car, but I live in a single family home, so I have a place to charge it. And I only use it for commuting because even if you have a Tesla, the charging network is just ridiculous. It does not make sense. And we haven't really done enough to figure that out. Even in, and I've made this point before, Santa Barbara County, there are some chargers if you want to go to wine country and use your electric car. But guess what? There's no cell service in a lot of those areas, and you need a phone or an app to even get these things to work. So we get a long way to go before we force everyone to an electric car. And I say that as the proud owner of a Chevy Bolt. In the Central Valley, we've been covering this nonsense story, but it is funny. Rene Campos is the sex offender running for Fresno City Council, and he held a press conference not only announcing his campaign over the weekend, but also complaining that the Fresno City Council is trying to ban him from being able to run for office. He says it's his right. He's a reformed criminal. He has every legal right to run for office. And you know what? He's not wrong. He has every right to run for that office. If he actually got elected, That's on us, the constituents. And there's lots going on in the California governor's race. Did I not put a governor's race paragraph in here? Ooh, I'm going to have to edit the California report during the break because I like everything to look a certain way. Okay, there is a lot going on in the governor's race. Matt Mahan sat down with Alex Michelson and was joined by Rick Caruso for a long-ranging interview. If you've only got 8 minutes, check out the profile in Matt Mahan if you don't know anything about him. I think he's one of the more interesting Democrats that's running for governor. But if you've got a lot of free time, the entire 23-minute interview between Mahan, Caruso, and Alex Michelson is definitely worth a listen. It's a great interview, and you even get a little insight as to why Rick Caruso decided not to run for anything. Also in the governor's race, ABC 10 sat down with Antonio Villaraigosa. Do not play the drinking game where you take a shot when he says proven problem solver, because he says it all the time. Steve Hilton talked to ABC 7 about immigration policy. Javier Becerra went to the Central Valley. And in the California crime blotter, I only have one entry today, but it is an interesting one. Lisa Rinna of Melrose Place and Real Housewives fame claims that at a party at the Abbey in West Hollywood, she got roofied. And even though it's funny because it's a celebrity, that stuff happens all the time at straight bars and gay bars. And be careful if you're going out clubbing. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-5222. Your emails at randywangradio@gmail.com. Search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. And subscribe to the California Report, my daily curated list of the stories that matter in California at randywangradio.substack.com. I'm going to warn you, there are some details that are going to be discussed in our next segment that might make you very uncomfortable, but it is important that you hear them and we all open our eyes and ears to the suffering that is going on the most innocent among us in Skid Row. Our next guest is an animal rescuer and activist who has been documenting what's been going on in Skid Row, and you all need to follow this account on Twitter, Joey_Tuccio, Tuccio, and Joey Tuccio is on the News Blitz now. Joey Tuccio, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate that, and that was a great intro, and yes, it is very graphic.
What got you to start going down to Skid Row to find out and document what has been happening down there and the complete dereliction of any kind of responsibility from our elected officials to prevent the rampant abuse that's happening to animals?
So 3 years ago, I got a call from another rescue, Stand Up for Pets, about this horrendous situation going on Skid Row. And I've always heard about Skid Row, but I've never really been on foot there. And when I went, there were just a line of pit bulls in cages in the sun. It was in the summer. It was August. There were all the feces all over the place, and there was, 5 or 6 of them. And so I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then I just drove around, and all I saw were dogs in the sun, dogs being bred, dogs running in the streets, dying dogs, dead dogs. And ever since then, I've been going every week and rescuing dogs from all different types of situations. We just rescued a dog, graphic alert, that had her eyes and her privates gorilla glued shut. So that's what we're dealing with.
I have seen so many stories that you have brought up just in the last couple of weeks, and it brings a tear to my eye. It is heartbreaking, but I am also so outraged and angry that our elected leaders are allowing this to happen. We're talking about incredibly felonious behavior. We're talking about, all kinds of, as much as the city likes to say they are against backyard breeding, there is so much breeding going on out there, and the city knows about it and doesn't care.
Yep. I mean, we just the other day we got another call about this mama dog that gave birth on the streets. She had 13 puppies, 3 died already. And the dog wasn't doing well, so we brought the dog to the vet, and then unfortunately we had to bring the dog back. So they didn't want to give up the dog, whatever. So then yesterday I went and I explained to them, like, if you don't get your dog fixed, this is where I start to cry a little bit, that the dog, is already forming some masses and this dog could die. And they said she still has a couple of litters left in her. And it's just, that's the mindset we're dealing with. And last year, Karen Bass went on the news and said the dogs on Skid Row are not neglected. So we're dealing with these people who don't want to hear what's going on, that pretend that everything's fine because it's very messy, it's very dirty, it's very graphic. But we continue to ring the alarms. And, we have counts of people like Isabel Jurado, who is so just turning a blind eye to not only the animals, but to all the suffering there. When she was running, she was very, excited about what we were doing and very, eager to come. And then she got elected, and then crickets. Never heard from her again.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Exactly. What has it been like with your correspondence trying to reach out to the city council and the mayor's office to do something about this horrific activity that is going on a daily basis?
So we have spoken on City Hall. We had a bunch of rescues come in, talk about not just Skid Row, but about all the situations. When it was our turn to do public comment, and but I don't get paid to do animal rescue. I have my own day job, so we take out our own hours out of the day to go. When it was our time to talk, they all walked out. So it was just, that's the insane amount of just ignorance to this. We've tried to get Isabel Jurado's attention. She doesn't respond. We've done petitions and protests to get Karen Bass's attention. She doesn't respond. So it's just even Newsom. PETA reached out to him recently, maybe a few days ago, about the animal crisis on Skid Row. And he basically said, it's not my problem, go to Karen Bass. And then Karen Bass doesn't care. So we're just being ping-ponged back and forth. And in the meantime, to your point, the dogs are dying on a daily basis. Dogs are dying. And the people, too. If somebody just literally jumped off a building on Skid Row yesterday, it's chaos, it's disorder, and it has to stop.
And it's only gotten worse in the last couple of years. And, ever since Karen Bass took over, the entire animal services system has been a disaster. As much as people like to believe that LA has a no-kill system, it's not. The shelters are overcrowded. They are underfunded. And even when we do need to do outreach, there are so many animals that are suffering on the streets and being victimized to all kinds of criminal behavior. And you hear nothing from the electeds. They want nobody to see or hear about what's going on down there because they assume nobody's going to go and see what's going down at Skid Row. But when you took a camera down there and some of the images you have posted, like, it is getting shared wide because it is unbelievable that this is the kind of suffering that we allow and we encourage, because of all the criminal behavior that we're talking about, nobody's getting arrested for any of the illegal breeding or the other violent acts that are being committed on these innocent creatures. I don't know if anybody listening has been to Skid Row, but first off, I wouldn't go alone. It's very unsafe, but you go and everybody's doing drugs. Everybody's dealing drugs. When I went the other day to go see an insane animal abuse situation where this unhinged person had 11 dogs and cats in 4 cages. And when I went, I didn't even see most of them because she had rope tied around their mouth so they couldn't bark. But these drug dealers went up to one of my friends and said, we have to get him out of here. Not the abuser, me, because he's effing with my money and effing with our, with this, that, and the other thing. And meanwhile, the police are right there. So, it's just drug dealing. Everybody's doing drugs. They just uncovered a brothel over there. My rescue partner actually adopted a 7-year-old human child that was being sex trafficked by his father. So it's just chaos upon chaos, and it's lawless. We're speaking with Joey Tuccio. He's been documenting what's going on in Skid Row, specifically how animals, dogs, even cats, are being abused on a daily basis, and not just through neglect, but through actual violent acts. What do you think if the average person is hearing this for the first time, what do you think they should be doing to speak out about this? Because we need as many voices as possible to start speaking out and start pointing out that our electeds can't keep ignoring this.
One thing that whenever I go, and I usually go on a Sunday, and I always try to bring somebody with me that's never been to Skid Row before, and because I want people to see, I don't want them just to take my word for face value or even Karen Bass's. Like, I want them to go see what's going on themselves. And everybody that I brought, we drive back afterwards, and they can't talk. They're in complete silence. And sometimes we have a dog dying in the back seat. So I do think everybody should go. We have an event every Sunday from 8:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. You could visit us at Starts With One today to get more information. We give out food, clothes to hundreds of homeless people, and there's tons of dogs that show up. And you'll see, I mean, I'm sorry, again, another graphic alert. We just, this past Sunday, we rescued this dog a couple of Sundays ago, where this dog's leg was rotting to the core. So the dog's leg had to be amputated. So we removed the dog from this person. On Sunday, this past Sunday, he had another dog, and he was trying to ride the dog like a horse. And then he opened up the fire hydrant, and the water was gushing out. He was shoving the dog's face in there to get water. So people have to see this for themselves. They have to. I wouldn't go and just shove videos, cameras in people's faces, because that's the quickest way to get attacked. But you have to go and just see this and see what's going on. You won't believe it.
And of course, there are probably people out there listening right now that want to know what they can do for the animals that you have rescued. Are you looking for fosters? Are you looking for adoptions?
Yeah, we're always looking for fosters and adoptions. I know a lot of the dogs we have are medium-sized pit bulls. So, and then also some Frenchies too, because that's there's so much breeding of Frenchies there. So yes, we are looking for fosters and adopters. So please reach out to Starts With One today to check out the dogs we have. And the other thing I just want to say too is that there's such an economy on Skid Row, where people go on Skid Row and they do their business, and some of them don't even live on Skid Row. You'll go and you'll see people dying on the streets, literally dying on the streets, and on the same street you'll see Mercedes and Teslas and Escalades. And because they do their business there because they know they could get away with it, because our leaders are too cowardly to enforce laws, and then they leave. They either leave with, cash or Frenchies or whatever.
It's just, it is unbelievable, but you have to believe it when you see it, and you are putting an image to what people are trying to bury their heads in the sand about. And every one of our elected leaders, whether it's Isabel, who's in the city council, Karen Bass, the mayor, and Gavin Newsom, the governor, they can't ignore this any longer. And I really appreciate what you're doing. If you'd like to participate and help out, and you go to the website, startswithonetoday.com. You can apply to be a foster. You can donate. You can see some of these stories. And Joey, I want to thank you so much for what you're doing out there. It is really, really, I'm sure it's really hard work, but it's really, really important work that people know the suffering that is going on in our own backyard.
Thank you. And yes, I think in our own backyard is important. And I feel like people in LA have to maybe do a little less looking out at what other people are doing in other places and look in their own backyard, because it's just as bad. And thank you so much for letting me come on. Sometimes I feel like I'm screaming into a vacuum. So when I get the opportunity to do this, it means a lot. So thank you.
Oh, I'm so happy to do it. And it's funny. I had so many people reach out to me like, you got to have Joey on. You got to have Joey on the show. I'm like, of course I got to have Joey on the show, the first opportunity. And we'll have you back on, because we're going to try to make as big of a push as we can to get our electeds to address this suffering that is going on in Skid Row. Joey Tuccio, you can get him on Twitter at Joey_Tuccio, and go to the website, startswithonetoday.com. That's ONE, and you can help out. Joey, thank you so much for everything that you're doing, and thanks for coming on and talking to us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. I really, really, really want to thank Joey Tuccio for coming on the show. I had people reach out. That's how I got turned on to his social media. I'm seeing these pictures every single day. I don't want to see them. I'm looking down at my cavy right now. I love dogs, and to see them suffering, it's unacceptable. So we need to do what we can to organize. And look, the simplest way to do that is to call these people out as much as possible on social media. So you should be following Joey Tuccio, and you should be responding to every horrific image and video that you see, and tag Karen Bass, Tag Karen Bass's campaign account. Tag Isabel Jurado, Council District 14. Why are you allowing this? It's unacceptable. All the nonsense that Karen Bass has said that, oh, the LAPD has a special unit that's tracking animal welfare in Skid Row. No, they are not. We can't continue to ignore Skid Row. And you know what? It's one thing to ignore the human suffering on Skid Row. It's a whole other thing to ignore the suffering of the innocents who are on there, the animals that are being brought in this world purely for sale, what have you. It is so wrong that we not only allow it, but pretend it doesn't exist. So the least you can do is spread that word on social media and ask the same questions that Joey's asking of Isabel Jurado and Karen Bass. The most you can do is you can help out. You can foster. You can rescue. These dogs need homes and they need a better life. And as someone that has 2 rescues myself, I'm so thankful every day for them, how much joy they brought into my life and what their situations would have been like if we weren't there. So it's hard to watch sometimes, but share Joey Tuccio's posts and blast the city council and the mayor every chance you can. They need to be embarrassed out of office if this is the kind of crap they allow. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. I'm just scrolling through more of the Skid Row nonsense. I got so upset I needed to hold my rescue chihuahua for comfort. So I am holding Rita while I do my last segment. Christy writes in at randywangradio@gmail.com. These politicians aren't ignoring it. It benefits them. These crises keep them in office. There's a tent with a couple of dogs on Havenhurst under the overpass across from Tapia Bros. I saw a poor dog tied up peeing on itself driving to work one day. None of this should be a surprise to any of us. They don't care. You're right. They don't. Let's go to Claudia in LA. Claudia, hello.
Hi, I was just calling to say I've seen some dogs being abused, for example, under the Silver Lake Freeway. I literally passed by and there were some homeless people hitting some dogs that were in a cage. And I called 911 because sometimes animal service seems to hang up on you. And then another time there was 2 dogs tied up in northeast Los Angeles. It was in the summertime and they were barking and trying to get away from the pole or just trying to escape or something, but they were tied up and I called again 911. So my point is just to make those calls to if animal services then call 911, they seem to take care of it as well. But, it's just unfortunate. People drive these heavy trafficked areas and they don't make the calls just to bring some awareness. But I also follow Joey. He does a lot of great work. And, it's just important to be an advocate for animals. They don't have their voice.
Well, and what you said is so important. We have to report this when we see it. And I don't care if you think, oh, no, someone else will call. No, you have to call. Because if these aren't reported, then they can say, no, look at the statistics. There's no animal suffering going on in Skid Row. So when you see something awful, and if it's animal services not responding to you, if the city's not responding, you call 911. Or you do what Joey's doing. You document that. You get pictures, you get video, and you put that out there because they no longer have the ability to pull the wool over our eyes anymore and pretend that this isn't happening. Claudia, thanks so much for calling in. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number. Hey, let's see what happened at the box office this weekend. Scream 7. I don't know if I could catch on because I haven't seen Screams 1 through 6, but I think it's all the same plot every single time. But Courtney Cox never got killed? Okay. Scream 7. First place was $64 million. And on the heels of that, they announced the parody movie people that they're going to do a new scary movie. I did see that. I remember that. But I don't know if parody movies hit the same as they used to. You know what? I did enjoy the Naked Gun reboot with Liam Neeson. Was it unnecessary? Maybe, but it was still really funny. And Pamela Anderson was awesome in it. Goat's in at second place, Wuthering Heights at third, 21 Pilots concert film is at fourth, and the Elvis concert film is at fifth. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.